that is for the right-of-way negotiations on First Street in conjunction with the city of Ann. Our portion of it just west of Hammond Road. The second thing to sign is MOU with Jefferson County and Bonneville County to do some grinding of wood. Yes.
How long would it take to move the equipment? Rather difficult.
Where?
Right here.
Oh, there. How hard is it to relocate?
We just go to, it's the county line. So it's quick and easy. This new machine will be super easy. So. And basically what we do is they give us a credit. So we grind it for $1,000 an hour, grinding hour, and then $150 each load. And then they give us a credit back. So when we take our trash out there during the winter months or whatever, then so we get free disposal. Kind of deal.
Stephanie, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Oh, wait. Okay, yep, I'm off mute.
All right, we've got the Department of Transportation, and apparently they got several subjects, so I don't anticipate this will take too long. What we need from you is we've got Ron Smith from our accounting here, and then the other commissioners to explain to them what the judicial confirmation for landfill projects entails. So, and then see if we want to go forward and what we need to do if we do.
Certainly, sir, commissioners. My name's Stephanie Bonney. I am recognized bond counsel, and that's a special kind of attorney that assists governments whenever they want to borrow money, both from a state legal perspective and then also from the federal IRS and SEC regulations. As you probably know, in Idaho, we have very strict borrowing rules. Essentially, with a few exceptions, when governments want to borrow money, they either need to get permission from the voters, or there is an exception where if they have a project that is both ordinary and necessary, then I can go to court on behalf of the county and validate that decision that the county is not required to go to the voters because the project is ordinary and necessary, and it therefore gives the county the authority to borrow money in order for that specific project. There is several cases that has been developed over the past about 150 years almost regarding exactly what it means to be ordinary and necessary. In general, the ordinary is not a problem. Almost anything the county is going to do is going to be ordinary, and we have very few cases in which something was not found to be ordinary. The crux is always whether or not a project is necessary. And essentially, that's usually tied to, there's both a temporal component of that, meaning that you need to pursue the project now. You're not doing it for some growth that you anticipate in the future. And at least for the projects that I work on, which are all water, sewer, and solid waste, there is always a necessary component that is tied to public health and safety. Usually environmental regulations, although it could be other things such as the need for redundant water supply, those types of things. So basically, if the county makes a determination that their solid waste project is ordinary and necessary, then I take that to a court and I have a judge look at everything. And even if nobody opposes it, the judge makes an independent determination as to whether the county was correct that this project is ordinary and necessary. The procedures for that are very specific. Essentially what happens is we do a special notice in the newspaper. It's a display ad, so it's not hidden where the legal notices are. The county holds a public hearing. as to whether or not they should file for judicial confirmation. The county is then required to wait at least 2 weeks before they make a decision. And then once they make a decision, we can file a petition. Then a hearing is set before court. We again have several notice requirements. And then the court holds a hearing as to whether or not the project is ordinary and necessary. If the court determines that it is, then the county can go ahead and choose to pursue financing for some or all of the project. The county is not required to get financing and not required to finance the whole project. They just then have the authority to do so should it become necessary for the county to do that. So that's just a quick overview. Are there any questions at this time?
Maybe, because we've spoken, so I kind of understand that this is only for projects, it's not for ongoing expenses. So we're required to isolate the project. For example, we've got the issue with DEQ now, and may have to do a 10-acre drainage pond, which we hadn't planned on, but it could be urgent. You know, we've saved ahead for a lot of it, you know, so we still try to cash flow as we go. But this, if we identify the projects, they can sit on the shelf, and if we don't need them, we don't go for the bonds. Correct?
Correct. I would just clarify that. I mean, obviously, it's a question of, I'm assuming, Commissioner, you're referring to whether or not you need to borrow money, because obviously the project has to be necessary, meaning you have to do the project regardless. You just may or may not have to borrow money. But yes, we have to identify each project the money will be spent on so the court can determine whether or not that project is necessary. And the whole necessary does not really apply to just standard maintenance and operation. It really is more of an urgent project that is needed, usually tied to, of course, health and safety or environmental regulations.
So you would need from us a list of those projects to identify.
Correct, and then an estimate of the project cost.
Is it easier to get the confirmation if the list is narrow?
Yes, sir. If in the sense that we obviously want to make a compelling case that the project is necessary. So the more we can identify. So for example, if the county has some money and you have several projects that need to be done and some are more urgent than others, then the best thing to do would be to identify the most urgent needs, do that with the judicial confirmation. And then that way, if you have pieces of the project that may or may not be considered urgent by the court, then you'd have your own money to be able to spend on those projects.
Yeah. Any questions?
So when the county makes that determination, is that in a form of a resolution or an ordinance, or what does that look like from the county to you?
Once the county holds a hearing, and then after 2 weeks, the county would adopt a resolution that I draft that basically makes the finding that the projects as we identify them are ordinary and necessary, and then granting me permission to file a petition in court on behalf of the county.
So would it be better, following up on Commissioner Reed's question, would it be better to identify the most urgent right now, and even though we know we're looking at some potential things that we don't know, you know, like relocation of the hatch pit, maybe 10 years, and then see where we are later, and then you can always amend it and go back to court later if you need it?
Correct, sir.
Ron, did you had some questions on the bookkeeping part of it?
No, I'll pick that up with the outside auditor.
Okay. So I guess the question is, do we want to retain Stephanie Bonney to, you said your fee for putting this together and going all the way through court and everything's about $8,000?
Correct, Commissioner. Now, I will say if it gets opposed and somebody actually files and has an attorney and gets experts, because that's really the only way you can validly bring forth arguments, that could be higher. But it's over the last 20 years, I think I do about 10 of these a year probably, and I've only had 2 or 3 that were opposed. So that's very unusual that people actually oppose them. But in general, about $8,000 is the average cost to do this.
Okay, now we put this on as an action item. Do you guys wish to pursue it?
A safe route.
Yeah, I'm not real in favor of the interest accrues on the debt.
That's why I asked the questions, if we've got the cash, could we borrow part of the project if we need to? It's just if we get up against the wall.
When I weigh that against the
Well, because we're proposing quite a significant fee increase this year. I think it goes towards showing DEQ that we're acting in good faith. We'll get it done as quick as we can. So.
I think that motion we go ahead and
Okay.
Motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Stephanie, if you want to send us an agreement, we'll start working on a list of projects, and we'll proceed from there.
Thank you, commissioners. I will do that.
Right, thanks. Okay, I know we've got Hammond, and do you want to listen to what ITD has?
Sure.
Some of it may. So, fire away.
Okay, so my name is Wade Allen. I'm the planning, scoping, and materials manager. And we have several things we want to talk about. We've got some handouts about the project. We have some grant stuff, but we have a specific project we want to get into. So I'm going to give you some handouts. In the meantime, let's just do some introduction. Jason, you can introduce yourself.
I'm Karen Hyde, the engineering manager.
Yes, I have a project manager. Well, I'm Dave, project manager.
I can see you with 4 engineers. Tell it both reports.
And do you guys kind of know everybody around here?
Do we have a member of the public here?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if you were.
Did you have an issue? Or?
I do. I want to talk about who purchased it. Probably this last February when we awarded the project.
So that would be our project, and I could probably get with you outside of this meeting if you want to talk to you about it, but I know what was your plan space. I'm the public works director.
Okay, you're kind of give us a quick synopsis of
Well,
what.
we bought this property in February. It's how it says it has 2 parcels actually, 5 and 4 acres. Okay. I have made a more accessible driveway coming into there. The other one comes in from a better cost to the other side of the house. Very part of the whole reason out there. I would like to switch that driveway. If they say that I can't have 2 driveways on one property, I don't know why that is.
It's another area of road, and there's one access to one parcel on the north.
Yeah, it's sitting on a very one parcel. And my next parcel is got, it's already zoned that I have another house on.
That other parcel would be able to have one access.
Okay, when we talked about the one, you said it was not.
No, I said one access for one parcel. But if you have a separate parcel, you would probably be able to apply for an access on that parcel. So you wouldn't be able to have 2 on one parcel.
Okay, maybe if that clears up your understanding, you could meet with Lance.
Yes, we will, yes.
Okay.
Let me ask one question on that. Can he connect them where you own both parcels? You go ahead and internally connect without any problem. Right?
So there's internally, as long as it's spaced right, to allow that those both parcels that are spaced far enough apart, there has to be at least an 80-foot spacing in between, right? Well, and that's what I'm saying what the regulation is, those would have to be at least 80 feet apart. So if internally he connects those, then it's out of road and bridges jurisdiction. Sure.
Because you're assuming they want to loop
Yeah,
for trailers and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good, because in my future, I'd like to go rezone that somehow to be able to sell.
Well, that's in the future.
Yeah.
And that's a different discussion.
Right.
A lot of.
Okay,
Anyway, thanks for hearing me.
all right, thanks. Sorry about that, we don't want him to sit here for an hour and be bored, unless he wants to.
So I did give you a handout there to save the date. Federal Transportation Board will be in town October 17th, will be in Rexford. We just want to get that on your calendar so you're aware of when, the open house, the date, and location are on there. Send the invites, where and when. And then I also gave you a list of projects. So on the list of projects, this is everything on our program in Bonneville. So if you look on the very left-hand side, that's our key number, that's what we use to track the project. And then the second from the left is the contract year, so that is when the construction funding is actually the program. And then the third one is the name of the project. And then on the very right-hand side, there's the scope. So we can see all the projects with the scope and location. We just wanted to extend that to you so you can see the projects. Any questions as you go down through those? I can go through them, or you can.
Or you can expand on the US 20
That was, no, that was not, well, we're willing to have the discussion if you guys want to. But they're here to talk about a different one.
Which project?
It's the US 2026, next US 20.
And the one you're talking about is,
Well, that's part of the same.
They're actually technically on our list, they're two separate projects.
which is the other one?
So it'd be about halfway down. If you look in the left column, it's about halfway down, it's key number 22,689.
689, okay.
US 2026 connector. That's the one they're here to talk about. If you would like to discuss I-15 US 25.
I think we are curious about that because that affects us, especially at the hatch pit.
So at the end, if it's okay with you guys, at the end, it's the same project. So
Okay.
we'll talk about that.
This is in order, you know, we're not in order.
That is correct. This is
Of the
it.
year.
Between your projects and the city projects, we'd just like to be able to get to work in the mornings.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Any questions on those projects? Other than obviously I-15, same project team. If not, Jeff has some grant stuff to discuss with you.
All right, as you're familiar with this, we're talking about strategic initiatives grant. What I'm handing out is just the grant program overview, and then I'll go shortly through this because I really want to make sure we have time for the project. This is a project that's recommended by the governor and approved by the legislature. It's a one-time grant
And the funding actually is going directly to the counties and to the locals and ultimately to you all. A couple of the high level benefits is that it's 100% grant with zero match, which is not typical in the grant world. Also, you can resubmit multiple applications, but you only would be awarded one award. So if you decide to put 2 or 3 in, you may need to prioritize which one that you would want to be awarded. But this is, again, I just want to kind of go through, because it would be Bonneville County, if you look at this, you'd be category 1, with a population greater than 50,000. Excuse me.
Yeah, not to interrupt you too much, but just, I have presented
Oh, good,
an
good.
application to the commissioners, and it has been submitted to ITD.
Excellent, okay. Well, then I don't need to go any further on this one, because that's really good news. I'm glad. So let me switch gears and do one more thing. And Lance, you probably have this too. The federal grants newsletter.
We hope our diligence to do that, or we will just write it down.
It's so noted in our minutes. Sure. So what I'm handing out here is ITD, and that is really good. So are you one of the 3 that Scott said we've got 3 applications?
I believe so, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. So what this is ITD puts out a federal grants e-newsletter monthly. And that's just one, that's the current edition, which they're Christensen. And what I'm pointing that out to you is because there's opportunities there for funding that we may or may not be able to fund, but there may be some funding opportunities for some of the projects that you are thinking about. And I wanted to share that with you because if you can be on the email distribution list and receive that monthly. Lance, if you don't have one now, I can put you on there if you want.
I believe I'm on it.
Okay, because I put that on early. And that's just an opportunity that comes out every single month of all the different federal grant opportunities. Even has resources on how to write grants, and it talks about who the contact points are. It's a fairly extensive newsletter that gets down into the weeds on each of the grant programs, and that's what I want to share with you all, so that you can be ahead of the curve and see when the opportunities are coming up, when the funding opportunities. And the good thing is the PDF, so you can actually just click it and send it to someone else that may be of interest to it. And really, that's it. I'm really excited to hear that you guys have put that in. Again, you don't need to go to the webinar on the 22nd to submit it. But I wish you well on that, and it's excellent to hear that you've already put your application.
When will we know? When does the
Right here, it talks about the application scoring and prioritization is September 4th through September 29th. So then the board project approves it, award notification anywhere from October 19th to the 27th. So towards the middle end of October. And the one thing I would suggest, just throwing this out there, is this is the one time that if there's an opportunity that you see this as a value, and you'd like to see this as a continuation, then when you go to this, help them to recognize that this is a worthy new grant program. We'd like to see it ongoing. Because the money then goes directly to you all, and it doesn't, ITD doesn't administer, we don't oversee it, it goes directly to you all, so it's more of a direct grant opportunity.
One question on one of these, it's a new one, national significant federal lines and private projects.
I haven't, that was one of the brand new ones that was just noticed on that.
Just wondering what else.
I don't think I've seen that particular one, but I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, Lance, there's 3 brand new ones that came out. That was one of the new ones. I'll email that to you just in case. Okay, so sure.
This is for projects of significant impact. Is this one?
Okay.
I should do it. Yeah, it has the application on that.
Now, if you're attending on the computer.
Well, I will ask for a letter of support. I promise we won't.
You're covering it, you'll be.
Well, that will be in September 1. But then again, by then the grant Correct, that would be the way.
Right there.
Yes, that's the BMPO tax.
It's a combined meeting.
It's a combined meeting this afternoon.
Right.
And we were supposed to talk about our project.
Okay, anything else on so far? Let's turn it over to these guys for discussion on the project.
Well, I'll kind of give you a little bit of history of this, US 20 to 26 connector. It was in the I-15 US 20 connector. There were some of the trucks and communities there talking about they would never drive to the auto falls. They hit the small metal jets and they were always black passing one now 49 and they're jumping onto the roadway that goes back speed or something. And it started making sense that this would be the next step to, expand the infrastructure. So this was programmed, and we put together several options on how to put this line together. We carried three of them to the public meeting back in the paper, and received a lot of good comments from that meeting. After coming out of that meeting, we went back, refined them, and we eliminated one of the three that we looked at. And then we met with Lance at Seaball Hall, CN, and BMPO, and gave them a look at this to make sure that they didn't miss anything and get their comments. And we did come up with some good comments. I'm going to pass these down to you folks on, the remaining two alignments that we're currently pursuing. And I was going to turn that over to Mike, kind of talk over these alternatives, give any questions if I answer any comments, and then also then answer any questions on that issue too.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Commissioners. So I'm Mike McKee with Ross Engineers. I'm the project manager on the consultant side. I've been working with ITD probably over the last year on this project. We're getting ready to move forward. And we've had a couple of updates. We just wanted to kind of let you know where we're at with this project and just so that you can keep your the individual constituents informed. And so as we're going through, there's three exhibits that we passed through. Essentially, the first one that you're going to look at is the connection between what we're assuming ITD on the I-15 US 20 connector. They're down to two alternatives, that H2 and H3. And the transportation department's the recommended preferred alternative would be that H2. And so a lot of these exhibits are showing what that connection with that I-15 US 20 connector with H2. We do, just to note, we do have the option, if for whatever reason is that project is moving forward, if something changes there and we have to, and we're going to go and switch alternatives to that E3, all three of these alternatives will work with that E3 alternative as well. But because ITD has that recommended proposed alternative, and that's why we're showing you with this alternative. As we're moving through, just if you look on, just kind of on the left of your page, just south of the St. Leon interchange, that's one of the intersections that's causing most of or a lot of the concern. And so as we've met with the public and as we've refined some of these alternatives, one of the things that's starting to make sense is to do an overpass at the railroad crossing. To take that US 20 connector up and over the railroad. As we've met with the city of Idaho Falls, one of the concerns, and with Lance and the BMPO, one of the concerns was on 15th East, making sure that north-south route stayed connected. And so we wanted to make sure that was still in play. And so by putting a structure over the railroad and also over that 15th East road or wood route, we'd be able to maintain that north-south connectivity. By doing that, there'll be a couple of little connector roads, and we're not quite sure where we're at with the configuration on those. We're debating on whether to go full access there or go right in, right out only access to there. So those configurations may change a little bit. As you move,
And by the way, the connector roads on those exhibits, those are the black ones that are on the northwest and the southeast.
they're a little loop, yeah.
They would just simply connect Woodruff to 15th East days to the 2026 year, basically because the grade separation that would be required between 15th and 2026.
Kelly. So as we're moving through, we really are down and narrowing down to two alternatives. One of those alternatives would be on alignment on that Talbot Road. And so you'll see that that first exhibit basically shows we're staying on alignment on that Talbot Road until we get near Beach's Corner. Then we would swing north, trying to allow for some intersection spacing just north of Beach's Corner. The second alternative, if you were to look at the second sheet, this one we would dip a little south of Telford Road. And one of the reasons that we were looking for at both of these alternatives specifically is we have a number of vehicles, specifically a lot of truck traffic, anticipated going down this road. We'd like to keep the speed higher, which we really want to maintain access control or controlled access to it. So this alignment would allow Telford Road for that East 49th North to maintain as is. It's kind of that smaller, that local type road. People could still, be there and have access to that local road, but then the main traffic would go south to that. Then as we get closer to Beach's Corner, we would then still swing up north and cross over and then tie back into the existing US 26. So this alternative would also connect down 25th East on Hit Road. Both of these scenarios currently actually has a project, the Hit Road intersection project. This project would tie into the north end of that project and continue to go north up to just past the intersection at Hit Road and Telford Road, with 25th and 49. So it would be, I think currently there's a little stop sign right there. So this project would widen 25th to that 5-lane section up to north of that intersection. The last exhibit that you're showing kind of zigs south and then heads up to the north. This is an alternative that we're not we're eliminating, but I wanted to just show this one to you just so that you were aware that this is something that we consider. So. Missing any, Ryan?
No, I guess the big thing that you might be interested in is right now, with the budgets work out, that piece from the US 26 existing for 49 will be under this contract, and that will, you could save you guys the money to upgrade that route in the future, at least to that intersection. Carry it further to the north to US 20 at Hit Road, where I remember what number that is. We see, that's, tough to answer about this quite a bit is that road at some point is gonna, just the amount of traffic going down, that's gonna have to expand out sometime in the future. Just kind of put that in the back of your head that that'd be a pretty big priority for this.
Well, I think on 25th East, on 15th East, on Allen Road, there's a bunch of north-south arterial streets in between here that are going to need attention in order to keep feeding the traffic north and south.
Any questions, commissioners, or any thoughts or feedback?
So 2029.
Yes.
This one's.
And this is all part of that roadway relinquishment that we had several months back.
When will you know which alternative?
I'm hoping we'll schedule.
Would like to do that by mid-September.
Go out to another meeting and then make a selection.
Dump station, which is called.
So that intersection would go north of that, that dump station, that RV dump station would be impacted.
As would farmland
Farmland as well, yeah.
And the Forest Service.
So, with the alignment being on, right on 49, what does that do to all those people's accesses along 49? Is the idea that you still, I mean, there's homes there, there's 2 gravel pits along that road, there's a block facility.
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason we're still presenting these 2 options. One, on 49, that access would still be there. We would like to try to control any future access along there or limit them so that the route's more efficient. And now the second one, when we move to the south, was to control that access, but we still found leaving access to the existing property there. But at the same time, future access, we would try to push it to other county roads if possible. If we need to, we'll limit them access to control the route, keep it safer, more efficient, move part of the business.
So the one to the south, or divides some of these properties on the south side, how would they access the back portion of the lot? Is it raised and they can get under it?
No, some of them we might have to provide some sort of access road. There could be some land blocking in a few parcels, not a lot, and we'll have to address that as we move further to the east side.
Yeah, there's some potential access that we could do on the south side of the property. We'd have to take that on.
Jason has a question first.
Well, I don't have a question for that. So if we do stay on alignment, I mean, part of this project, we're going to be trying to condense those accesses. So we want to share the coaches, all of that. So it is a bigger lift than what it used to be. It's not, I get to keep my driveway. We may be, putting in different approaches and feeding several people from that approach, trying to meet our space requirements, which is not possible on this alignment. So just FYI.
I guess all that I would ask on that is when we get to that point in time that we kind of know what's going on, because I'm here for a lot of these property owners or treasurers. So if I just have a heads up that, hey, this is what we're thinking, we kind of coordinate that together, that would be really helpful for me and Lance too, I'm sure, because he'll get a lot of the same questions.
With the meeting with the local governments here, we will start including.
So back to the question that the commissioner asked of impacts to the dump station, because there'll be other properties that we buy, it will either be that it would have the opportunity to relocate, or that's something that you don't want to have there anymore. Or so that would be a question that we ask later on.
I just think that the ownership on that is state parks. So we just operate it, or I believe it's a state park.
Who owns all the septic, but I know that over the years.
Well, the septic we changed over, and it goes to my own property. So the question is, how to talk right there, has to be complete that.
Because there are other properties that if that's, I know as a person that has a camper, it's nice to have a dump station there, nice town, right? For public needs, I appreciate that, but if there may be other opportunities to just relocate and have kind of in the same area, because there will be other properties that people would. So as a relocation.
That's good to know, because our parts of our it's not like that.
Oh.
All of us, all of those who do that, us who need to make the best. It's hard to do that. So, but we discussion like that.
The other thing to look at on some of this is what happens regardless of whether this is on the line or not. There's some things that have to happen with 49 North as it goes further east that are going to change drastically from what it is today.
Which is kind of going on the export trial.
could, yeah. But it also impacts those local properties and how they access and how they get around. At least one of them, you'll see the 49 North is cul-de-sac and it doesn't connect. So, I mean, there's, or you go back and around, yeah. So, there's a few other impacts to 49th North that need to be looked at and understood as far as what's happening.
So, any other questions on this one? If not, we can move forward that. Try to continue this one to that.
Yeah, like, Brian, I will take the call. You can be interested in this. And we are too. So that's just for position for struggling to find that in a certain way. It'd be nice for you guys to come up with 2.5 times whatever that's worth, which you're looking for, of course. I don't hear.
There's a lot of chuckling going on.
You get an awesome gas. You get an awesome gas.
Yeah, I don't hear a big amen. So.
Question.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, why not use the existing 49th Street for US 26?
That's one of the options.
That's the alternative, on the first page.
Yeah, that's one of them.
That's why he's.
So there should be, I'm sorry, yeah, there's 3 exhibits that go with that. On the very bottom, we've got an A and a B and a C. That on alignment is our B alternative. That's the one that is moving forward.
I see.
One of the main challenges, Mike, one of the main challenges is access control. And what they were talking, there's some homes along there that getting access to control of those few homes, they're very shallow parcels.
Yeah, if you kind of envision this, the existing Southward is 2 lane, 1 lane each direction. The footprint for this one, we're anticipating about 120 foot right slot through there, which would be, 5 lane section, 2 lane each direction, right enough to go further. So, as we're doing that, with that, if we stay on that alignment, we can stay on alignment, we can come slightly to the south. But then you're dealing with large volumes of traffic and trying to have access, backing out of their driveways and such, which makes that sometimes a little bit more challenging with lots of those vehicles. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing going safest. So that's why we were carrying that other alternative just to the south, so that 49th road that southward would stay as a 2 lane of a local. People could be able to access that. The downside would be, in order for them to really be able to get onto 2026 or up to US 20, there would be some a bit more travel, foot travel.
Do you have anything else?
So it's also, we just want to keep you up to speed on what's going on, try to address it.
Yeah, I just like to see where you are on that, because we keep hearing uncertainty. I think the city annexed a piece of property to the state.
Well, I thought we was talking about this other thing, but, yeah, we can get up there.
Okay.
So you want me to wait for the.
Yeah, unless we have other trees. Okay. We're waiting for you. We would be interested. Okay.
Okay, we're brought over BMPO if I miss anything. We are currently still working through the EIS process. process. And as you know, we did recommend the local police too. And we are aware of that property. So it's, and we are concerned about it. We hope we'll be able to maybe purchase that property. Whether that can happen or not, we're working on that. We're a little bit off schedule on this. We want to keep out at 24, but now we're at 45 due to some of the agencies that we have to deal with. They're doing their job. It's just there's a lot of things to do. It's a table of more time than we anticipate. We're still trying to pursue funding packages. They feel funded. It's not funded yet, but we will get it. So, I believe that we have some commitment to buy right away when we get the environment. Is there anything on this scale?
Unless you guys have questions.
So pretty much is going through with that, which is going to see what the environment is on hazard. Stay like this, set on hazard.
So there hasn't been a change to any of the geometric alignments or any of those things that we haven't changed anything of that sort. With the environmental impact statement and the process that you talked about that will conclude early 25, that process there carries both the H2 and the E3 process through that final. And that's when the ITD recommended preferred alternative, and the preferred alternative then is just finally determined and signed off. And so that's when that time. Did I say that right, Karen?
Well, I was gonna say on the time frame though, when do we have anticipated right now to go out to the public with the draft? That might be a difference.
Yeah, and currently we're looking at November, December timeframe to propose the draft EIS or the EIS. Does that get pushed to January?
It's pushed back into the spring.
I was thinking of the spring timeframe. So you'll see what's called a draft. So what they've been working on is a lot of the technical reports. There's a lot of different criteria that we go through. Each one of those has to be addressed, whether it's air quality, historical properties, threatened species, wetlands. There's 11 of them. Checklists that we just, but getting those all, some of them have to be really required before we finish the other one. Physical impact reporting, historical. So they're getting all of that complete to be able to take out the public what timing right now. But yeah, as Kelly stated, it will be that both of those alternatives are evaluated in the draft EIS proposal. That the public will have a chance to comment and we'll finalize that with the record of the city.
I'll keep quiet. Okay, with that, do you have anything else that you would like to discuss? Not necessarily these topics, but anything else. So we understand, with that project, what the CQR hearing stuff, that concerns you, what we said, we're happy to come back. Clear up. So if you hear anything, have any questions, don't hesitate to get a hold of us. We're happy to sit down.
This will help us, especially in our planning, so. And we'll do it around each quarter.
Well, this is gonna have a big impact depending on which way you go, because it's gonna open up the demand for development, especially if you take that south on Couples Farm. But it's gonna have a huge impact on sudden demand on the office.
I was telling Kelly a lot of background out there is already zone commercial and industrial, but it just has never had the services. But I can imagine that changing quite a bit with the major interchange going through there.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about, requirement for LPG yes, no, the discussion.
This whole area will be considered for interchange and a whole different land use probably previously considered.
Yes. We're trying to work with others, trying to avoid stumbling blocks that approving something that is value within our jurisdiction, within the powers that we have.
And from a planning side, I guess, anytime I get anybody in any of this area that comes in and talks to me and says, I want to do this, just hope you guys know my first response is like, he has a lot going on, you need to go talk to him. So, sorry to send everything your way, but I just want them to know this is what's going on, and if the county says we're not doing anything here until we get this solved, because we don't want to be back there, that's our goal, so.
But if you're having a developer come in and is being very insistent, we're happy to come sit down with us.
Yeah, and I haven't had a lot in the last couple of months. There was a while there where it was pretty heavy in this area, but if I do, that's good to know. I'll just try to set up a joint meeting so we can go through it together.
Do the commissioners, I mean, there's a few things on these exhibits that are listed as potential 4F. Do you know what that means?
I had a question about, but I think it was the story.
At this point, we're still early enough in the project. We don't know who they are, but we suspect who they are.
So yeah, the definition of for it's a most historical property, and then we go through a process. It's eligible, significant. So there's a process. We find out on like 15 or 20, how the overall impact historical properties and wetlands. We have a balancing act there, but 4F specifically means something historical, or that it's something a part can also be a 4F and it has a process clearance that is a little more stringent. You can't just take, you can't just impact that without going through and checking off that there wasn't either a reasonable proven alternative that it would be.
So if we do what was promised for us, so 6 weeks, there has to be part.
There's still a process. So on 4F, there's still there's a process. Sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short.
I think this is something that we'll do. Roll that. Story for us, trees, but they'll go around and the trees die, just get further down.
Clear from it.
Yeah.
I was going to add as well something that Austin brought up a second ago. We are working together with the BMPO and with the county, the city of Idaho Falls, and even in Hammond and the others with the BMPA, the updated demographics, and we're plugging all that in. So the impacts to the overall system traffic, and we're tracking that, even have projected traffic numbers for each of these scenarios, whether it be H2, E3, or any of the scenarios that you see before you. And if you do have, interest in looking at what those projected numbers and where those traffic trends would be from a travel plan perspective, we'd be glad to share those with you as well. But I just wanted to let you know we're working all of these efforts.
I still think like I don't know if we can create state there. It always blank looks. I'm used to it.
hammering some more roads up by where I live, so.
Yeah, ladder too.
We did that on purpose. All right, thanks.
Anything else?
No.
Are we still recording right now?
No.
Yeah, please, question, because you would be involved in that, so.
So not right at 17, but come up to, not out of the turn that 5 lanes to go all the way up to the roundabout. The application part of it is from the roundabout.
But the application I put in is on, I own a road from Evan Road 45th.
Okay, so that yours is kind of up there.
North of a mile. If you're talking about Hammond Road and the Lincoln roundabout, it's
Yes.
a mile.
Okay. And what's your thoughts for the Hammond roundabout at Lincoln North? Because that's going to take you a while.
That, I have a different project that has been designed to widen it out and see everything. But I just added a little bit to the side is all that it was needed to most of that to get the 3 seconds. But that's a different project and I've got the plan for it, but it was a lot less of a priority than that.
So what the hope is, and Tracy and I are coordinating on this, is part of that is our but it's funny how the road we've got some severe back. So and then he's actually bringing some development to improve to that 5.
Then I turn
But where it's already Yellowstone, along that end of the road, I can turn that 5 lane all the way up to that roundabout.
I go all the way around.
And a lot of that section, there was need a huge amount of asphalt added to get it close.
It's still about $1 million. We've already done a lot of estimates on it.
So that's the idea, that's the project.
That's what Tracy was saying.
Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
So if he can give me just a little bit more details about what he actually had on here, maybe I will do that.
We get to those new grounds to talk about this stuff. But Ken, other thoughts?
What about crew? Can you
We need to move on.
Solid black.
This is the one that we care for the details and soil all together.
Plans added some stuff about PQ in there, right? For prohibited disposals.
Yeah, I've tried to put some other stuff, but windmills, solar, and anything else that's prohibited, but don't run down.
Commercial waste, commercial
which I think that's a broad enough statement.
So we can close. And it's pretty broad, pretty loose, but it gives us some authority, yeah. Yeah.
Trouble with it. You look through this whenever you think it's complete.
Yeah.
Everything you.
Yeah, we could be more specific, but I agree with Lance, giving us that broader description allows us some room to pinpoint those areas that are causing this or could cause it. You know, if you go in and say, no liquids, no this, no that, then you're controlling yourself, or you just put it in there.
Second motion. So there's the ordinance to sign, then there's a summary behind it, which you need to sign to publish in the newspaper.
Commissioner Reed, in road bridge get our Wi-Fi back.
Yeah, I'm working on that this morning. They're supposed to be coming today. Okay, sorry, I didn't know that it was holding up.
What's happening?
So I just want to say it's been great working with Lance and for our First Street project. We've got all the parcels identified that we need to acquire, both on the county side and the city side. I'm working with the property owners right now acquiring the county or the city side. And I believe that document that they signed today gave you guys four options. So I think that project's moving forward as expected. Lance, do you think that we're going to be under construction next year?
Give me another 2 months of them being able to get out and talk to people, and I might be able to tell you a better answer.
Okay.
Right now, with the right of way, as nebulous it is for that stretch of the county jurisdiction, I'm not sure.
Okay. Because the real difficult acquisitions are on the county side.
Yeah.
It's already there.
Okay, anything else?
And just, we will be submitting a strategic initiatives grant. I was talking last about that. I don't know which project we will submit. But we won't compete. Ours will be separate, so.
It will compete because it's still in the.
Well, yeah. Okay. But the challenge though is our ambient projects don't have the same regional, we don't score the same regional points that we used to. So that's why I say ours are always, they're a lot more local. So we'll submit something. We appreciate a letter of support. So, and Tracy did say you could hold it today and use more information.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you real quick on that 115th east easement. If you want to pursue that again this year or not?
Did it look good?
I don't think it did. Really didn't. Well, they didn't use it entirely, so.
There were still people using the existing road with track vehicles. And in fact, one of the main complainers about this took pictures and sent to us while he was on the Dugway. Saying, we'll see their track vehicle.
Oh, do you want to push it again?
I don't think it's.
Improve things, yeah. That's what I saw. Any other things?
I don't think I had anything else.
I do think this is a little bit of urgency to getting that utilities standard. And, set this. And we need to keep talking about that, a little bit. One question. The old land is, First Street, where we have the bill payment. We've had somebody wondering if we could surplus that, those aren't for the drainage.
Well, the drainage is in there, but we also use that for stockpile of soil and stuff that we've got from other places. We dump sweeping there, we use that as a training ground sometimes, so I would say no, yeah.
Yes, that's all, all I need to do is get back, still need it.
My use hearing would be required too, so,
The rest,
just one thing for Lance and Blair to show quick, so, HK wants to talk about the hatch pit and some of the agreements there, so I'm trying to set up a meeting for basically all of us in executive session commissioners, so they'll probably be so that we can discuss that agreement and what they want to discuss. So I'll just keep you in the loop when that's gonna be, so you know, make sure you get your say.
Tell the guy it's not.
So the only thing that I know of that we have an agreement is that's on paper is actually the operation plan.
There's an agreement from 1970.
Yeah, Lance sent me one,
Oh, you
City of Idaho Falls, and, HK had brought in one yesterday, it was from like 90 something, and he says they have 2 other ones, so he's supposed to be sending me those this morning, and I'll send those to everybody so we look at them.
And those are agreements between the county and the city
HK.
and the, yeah.
Or the city.
Or the city and the county, or HK and the city, there's a whole bunch of different stuff going on.
well, I remember about that, we both have to agree. Little bit of a secret.
So anyways, HK just wanted to discuss it, and I told them I try to facilitate that for them, so.
So do you, I mean, have they given you any purpose, reasoning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got, I think with the state project going on, and
Oh, they've got
them having to acquire land and give somebody money, there's just a lot of unanswered questions as to what happens there, so.
There'll be a lot of a chance to discuss other properties.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was wondering if Austin could give a brief update on your impact discussions, because we're getting to a period of our discussions on that.
Yeah, so it's going to a work meeting, planning and zoning commission tonight, very good back to City of Ramlin.
Joint meeting, right?
Joint meeting, 2 planning commissions, we'll discuss what staff has agreed to, feels comfortable with, on a lot, we'll get their input. And then hopefully within the next, hopefully the next 3 or 4 months, you'll be seeing something. A lot of good template usage from what I am using, so it's been a really good process so far. So we're feeling good about it.
Thank you.